Hey, what's up, guys? Alright, today we're looking at a mod to the Crosman skeleton stock. And essentially what we're doing is we're filling in the empty space in the butt stock. So because it's a skeleton stock, there is going to be basically a hole there between the frame. Now I made this as like a prototype. It's a little rough around the edges. I just kind of made it out of cardboard and glued some leather to it with Gorilla Glue. I could clean it up, but this was again just a prototype. Now you'll see that it's open inside. So basically what you do is you just pop this into the stock. You could put CO2 in there, pellets, whatever you want. And it's basically a storage space in the stock itself. Now I wanted to come up with a clean version, something that would probably last a little longer, look a little bit better. So what I did is I went to the thrift store today and I got one of those plastic drawers. I was just looking for black plastic because I knew it'd be something that I could easily mold, cut, and shape and make into this basically just like a box in this kind of trapezoidal shape. Okay, so what I did was I cut out, first of all I made a stencil, and then I trimmed it until it fit just right into the stock. Then once I knew the stencil was the right proportions, then I kind of traced it onto the plastic and scored it and cut out the shape with an X-Acto knife. Or I shouldn't say I cut it, I just marked it, and then I had to actually use utility scissors to cut it. You have to be careful because the plastic will want to crack if you try to cut too much, so you just cut a little bit at a time, and it will cut fine and not crack if you do it right. And then you'll get rough edges, so you'll need to sand this. I just took it out on the concrete. I did use sandpaper too, but you can take it out on the sidewalk and run it back and forth and flatten out those edges. And then you'll also need to fit it into the stock until you get a good close fit. So you have to do that twice because you need two sides, and that takes a lot of work. The next thing that you'll do is you need an inner frame, kind of, so that you can sandwich these two pieces together. So the thing is about the stock, it's thinner at the top than it is at the bottom. So that kind of creates a problem when you're cutting these pieces. So the bottom piece has to be a little bit bigger. I want to say it's, let's see if we can measure that. It's hard to measure, it's wet. I did have a spare piece around here somewhere. Okay, so yeah, the top piece is about 3/8 of an inch. And then I would say the bottom is probably about 5/8. You'll want to do the measurements for sure. Plus you have to take into account the thickness of each panel twice, because it is going to contribute to the overall thickness. And there's not a lot of space in that stock, so you don't want it overlapping or sticking out. So this had to be thin. Now unfortunately, the CO2 cartridges are about almost 3/4 of an inch. So that creates a problem, which means they're probably not going to fit in there. Now, that's kind of a bummer, but I do actually have another item which is apparently lost right now or misplaced. It's basically a sleeve that I made which fits around the stock, and it'll hold CO2. You can get those shotgun cartridge elastic things and put them around it. But the thing is, that'll work in addition to this, because this isn't taking up any more space in the rifle. It's just utilizing space within the stock itself. So it'll be out of the way. You can wrap whatever you want around that even. Now ideally, if you get it sized right, it'll just kind of pop in and out. And there's a number of things that you can do if it's too small or too big. Obviously, if it's too big, you'll just sand the edges. Just keep sanding them till it slides right in and locks in. And it does kind of click in, because the stock on the inside, everything isn't flat. It's curved. The lines are curved, and then there's also kind of like convex shapes along the inside of it. So if you do this right, it'll kind of lock in there, and it won't come out unless you physically push it out or intentionally push it out. And you know, I can always put tape or something tacky around the edges, some sort of tacky putty, just to help it seat in there. There's a number of things you can do to customize that to get it to fit. So I'm not worried about that. The main thing is you want to get your dimensions right so that this box itself will fit in there good. Now, okay, so all I did with these inner supports, I cut the 5/8 length along the bottom, did the 3/8 length along the top. The back was a little trickier here because it had to start at 5/8 and it has to end up at 3/8, and then it has to taper exactly to that length as well. So you kind of have to do a little bit of measuring and geometry there for that. In addition to that, there are 4 hollow plastic pieces. Where I got these was the Gammo shotgun that came out several years ago. These are the slugs or bullets or whatever you call it for those. Shells, I guess it would be. So these are the empty shell casings, and they're just plastic cylindrical pieces. So I cut those to length, again a 3/8 for the top and a 5/8 for the bottom, and used those as kind of support pieces. So I wedged them in the corners here. Now the front is going to be open, and the reason for that is that once it's inside the stock, that's all going to be sealed, so nothing's going to fall out, and obviously you're going to need one end open so that you can dump the stuff. I chose to make the front, which is narrower, leave that open rather than the back, which if I left the back open, the stuff might have been more accessible, but this way I'm getting more support because I can put a longer plastic piece on the back. So it's kind of personal preference there. And once all this is done, really all I have to do, I'll let this dry. So I've used E6000 industrial strength adhesive on that. So I'm going to let that dry for a good while. Then I'll kind of sand everything flush. This one here looks like it's sticking out a little bit. So that guy will need to be sanded down. Sand all that flush, and then just run adhesive all along the top. Sandwich that in. And it'll look something like that. I'll kind of take this down. See how that looks. So this is going to be hollow in here. Again, it's just like this one. Same deal. And basically, I'll probably have little mini kits. So what I had envisioned for this was a place to store ammo, tools like Allen wrenches, and Pelgun oil. You know, I was hoping I'd be able to get CO2 in there, but it just looks like that's not going to work out. So, plus the way this is situated, I don't have any way to lock these in, and it doesn't have like compartments or things, so it would just be rattling. CO2s are heavy and metal, so that probably wouldn't be a good idea. Anyways, so it'll just have to be where I slide things in, and then I can pull this out and dump them out. So it's basically kind of like a hidden storage type thing. And I'm not sure. I had a few ideas as far as, you know, using magnets or something, and then I could pop this lid off and get to everything, and then I could seal the ends. Which, you know, come to think of it, I suppose I could do that. It's an interesting idea. Let's go to Walmart or something and get a few magnets. Maybe just put one in the middle, and then the panel would be on there just enough to where you could just kind of pop it off. The only thing about that is it might kind of wiggle itself loose. I know if I glue all this together, everything's going to be sturdy and strong. It's probably going to hold up for a good while. But if you did magnetize that and make it to where this just came off, you would have full access to the inside, and you could compartmentalize it. You know, put little things in there that'll lock the items into place a little better, because otherwise you're just going to have to leave this as an empty area that you just shove stuff in there and then dump it out. That's as sophisticated as you can get for something like that. So I may consider that. On the back here, you'll see there's a little bit left over on the edge. That's just because that's curved and you're gonna have to use straight pieces. So that's not a big deal. Plus that gives you a little bit of play. If it's not fitting right, the edges there can kind of bend. So, you know, hopefully that'll work out. Again, I don't even know what this will be like until I get it all sanded down and glued together and let it dry. So we'll see how it goes. I'll post a follow-up video. But hopefully it'll end up looking pretty cool. Just like that, basically. Alright guys, that's it for this one. Again, it's another Crosman mod coming to you. Don't have anything else for this one. I'll do a part 2 and follow up, let you know how it works out. So again, any comments appreciated. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. Take care.